it's amazing how hard people make what a simple game it is. But of course, if they told everybody what a simple game it was, then 90% of the income or more of the people that were speaking would disappear. So there's really a little too much of us to expect of human nature that people will explain why they really aren't adding any value to what you can do by yourself, or actually I hate to use the example, but you can't have monkeys throwing darts at the page and take away the management fees and everything. I'll bet on the monkeys, but I don't consider them a superior species, and I don't want them to move next door instead of my next door neighbor or anything. But that is the way it's just the way it has to be. Charlie, do you have anything cheerful to say?
Well, frequently in the wealth advisory business, the way it used to be, you go to your investment advisor and you say, what should I do to protect myself for the future? And he says, why don't you give me $50,000 of your net worth now? That's my contribution to your future. It's a peculiar business.
Yeah, it's a great place to go rich. Still, if you have a son or daughter that really wants to make money per point of IQ and per erg of energy and all of that, well, tell them to go to Wall Street. I mean, don't have them enter the priesthood or anything. I mean, if that's what it self-selects, and it always will be the case. I mean, there's no reason to despair about humanity because they behave in their self-interest. They may not actually be behaving in their self-interest over time, but they, are they happy or who the hell knows? But if they just want to make money, people here in the auditorium saw a little session from the Solomon episode, and Jerry Corrigan was then the head of the New York Fed, and that same committee was grilling him, and they said, Mr. Corrigan, they were giving him a hard time, and they said, who was the highest, they said something to this effect, who was the highest paid or guy at Solomon last year, and he said, well, and he named him. He said, maybe he named him, and he said he got, I forget whether it was 20 million last year, and we're talking 1991 now too. He said, he got 20 million, and the guy says, well, how old is he? And he said, well, I think Corrigan's somebody affected. He's 26 or something like that. And then Corrigan couldn't resist saying, and he can't even throw a football. And the truth was, now there's a lot more money in throwing a football now than there used to be. One of my heroes was Ted Williams, and I think he was making $20,000 or $25,000 a year, and just imagine today some guy that bets 230 or 240, and if he makes it to the bigs, I mean, the money flows in, and of course, those people should sit down and thank the fact that the stadium that could hold 30 or 40,000 people and was the source of revenue for the people who paid their paycheck, that stadium went from 30 to 40,000 because somebody first invented television, and they came up with cable television, and they came up with pay and all that sort of thing. And nobody knows the names of those people. But capitalism is very, very, very peculiar in how it dishes out rewards. And for a while, it was better to be in Wall Street than be at 220 or 230 hit here in the bigs, and it is now reversed because of the development of TV, et cetera. So it's a crazy world. The rewards seem very, 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 very capricious, and they are, and they don't seem to any theologian or even to Charlie and me in our spare time. The whole thing seems kind of crazy, but it's worked awfully well, and even the people who don't take advantage, get shortchanged by the system, are doing far, far better than if the system hadn't gotten changed. Doesn't mean that you necessarily shouldn't work for change, but you should recognize the limitations of what you can do with humans, I'll put it that way. Okay. Charlie, is there any way you'd like to close the sermon?
Well, I do think we have a very interesting phenomenon I would argue that in a lot of the wealth advisory business, people are charging for skill and delivering closet indexization. In other words, nobody can stand being that different from the crowd in results. They're afraid they'll lose their fees, so everybody does the same thing. It's mildly ridiculous. The world is mildly ridiculous.
Yeah. But as Charlie pointed out in the movie, which only the people here saw, that before we were married, we tried to convince a couple of young women that we were really more attractive than we were. I mean, you can't expect people not to behave in their self-interest, and that was very important. That we didn't disclose all of our weaknesses before the marriage. So,
Warren, we're trying to be a little better.
Yeah,
we may fail a little, and I don't know about you, but I've slightly improved since I was 17.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting point, because if fortune has just showered you with all kinds of good things, you ought to be a better person in the second half of your life than the first half. I mean, that really should not be asking too much of people if they've won the ovarian lottery and all kinds, they're born in the United States and all kinds of good things have happened to them, and you've had a chance to see how stupid you were in all kinds of things you did. Why not have the second half of your life be better than the first half? I mean, and I would say, working from a very low base, but I mean, I'm not nearly, by any intelligence test or ability to do any of that, I haven't learned anything, but you do learn certain things only by interacting with people. And you don't know when you're 2 years old, no matter how much you're picking up all kinds of knowledge from the world. The learning machine that's going on in a 2-year-old's head is just unbelievable. But it's not the same as having 30 or 40 years of experience with actually how the human animal behaves, which is you're learning all the time about it. But that should make you a better person in the second half of your life than the first half. And I would say that if you say you're a better person in the second half, if you've got reason to say it in the first half, forget about the first half. Enjoy the second half. And I think both Charlie and I have had the luxury of living a long time, so we get to play what we would regard as the hopeful and expectable second half. And we have had enough sense to figure out, we figured out what makes us happy, and we've gotten somewhat more sensitive to what can make other people unhappy and all that sort of thing. And I'd rather be judged by the second half of my life than the first half. And so would Charlie.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I don't even look at what I did when I was young because it would embarrass me.
Okay. Any of you who wish to quiz Charlie on specifics can do so later.